Today, we're going to talk about the wild story of EncroChat. It was supposed to be a secret, unhackable phone network just for criminals. But in this incredible twist, it turned into the biggest intelligence goldmine the police had ever seen.
And it all came crashing down with this single message. Just imagine this. On June 13, 2020, 50,000 of Europe's most notorious criminals looked down at their super secure $1,000 phones and see these two words. I mean, your heart would just stop, right? They were caught, and their own devices had turned on them.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How did a system designed from the ground up for ultimate paranoia and secrecy end up broadcasting every single criminal's secret straight to the police? Well, the answer is a crazy story of brilliant engineering, one catastrophic mistake, and a high-stakes game of digital cat and mouse.
Okay, so to really get this, we've got to rewind to the beginning. The year is 2016. Picture this. Two ex-soldiers, who are also pretty skilled hackers, are hanging out in a pub basement. They see a massive opening. A rival encrypted phone service had just been taken down, leaving the entire European criminal underworld without a safe way to talk. They realized $1 million black market just lost its phone company.
So what did they decide to build? They created the ultimate ghost phone. And this wasn't just some secure app you download. Oh no, this was a whole new piece of hardware. They took a regular smartphone and literally ripped out everything that could possibly be used to track someone. No GPS, no camera, no microphone. This was a device built for one thing and one thing only: secret, untraceable chats.
And the design was just obsessive. I mean, look at this. No GPS or camera, that's a given, but it also had a special panic wipe pin. If you were about to get caught, you could enter it and boom, all the data on the phone would be instantly erased. If you enter the wrong passcode too many times, the phone would just automatically delete everything. You couldn't even buy one with a credit card. You had to use cash or Bitcoin. Every single feature was designed by paranoid people for paranoid people.
The difference here is just night and day. Your normal phone is designed to connect you to the world, to your identity. The EncroChat phone did the exact opposite. It was made to disconnect you from everything, to create this secret hidden world where you were basically a ghost. It even had two operating systems. If you turned it on normally, it looked like a boring old Android phone. But if you used a secret button combination, it would boot up into a completely hidden, encrypted world.
And you can probably guess what happened next. With a product that's perfectly tailored to its target market, the business just exploded. The founders had this dream of becoming the AT&T of the underworld, and honestly, it was happening. EncroChat became the new gold standard for any criminal who needed to communicate securely. Now, of course, they couldn't just come out and say, "Hey, buy our phone to plan your crimes." They needed a cover story. So their official marketing line was that they protected high-profile clients, VIPs and celebrities who needed their privacy. It was a pretty thin excuse, and as police would find out, it was complete nonsense.
In reality, this was their user base. Europol later figured out that a whopping 90% of all EncroChat users were involved in serious crime. And get this, in the entire United Kingdom, investigators couldn't find a single legitimate, law-abiding customer. Not one. The so-called VIPs were drug lords, hitmen, and arms dealers.
The scale of this operation was just mind-blowing. By 2019, the network had grown to 50,000 active users, all coordinating crime across Europe. And they were willing to pay a ton for that secrecy. It wasn't cheap. On top of buying the $1,000 phone, you had to pay about $1,500 every 6 months just for the service. But hey, when you're moving millions of dollars in cocaine, that's just the cost of doing business.
And this is what made it so powerful, but also so very vulnerable. EncroChat wasn't just for sending a few secret messages. It became the central nervous system for the entire European underworld. Think of it like their own private encrypted version of Slack or Microsoft Teams. But by putting everything in one place, they had created a single point of failure. And that was a target the police just couldn't resist. But, when you get this big, you start attracting the wrong kind of attention. A network this large, used by so many high-level criminals, wasn't a secret anymore. It was public enemy number one for pretty much every police force in Europe. And slowly but surely, the net started to tighten. In early 2019, different countries teamed up to form a joint task force with one mission: take down this network. Then the phones started popping up at major crime scenes. But the real breakthrough, the fatal mistake, came when French investigators tracked down EncroChat servers to a physical data center in northern France. All of a sudden, this ghost network had a real-world address.
So this was the million-dollar question for the police. The encryption itself was top-notch. Even if they got their hands on a phone, the messages were basically impossible to crack. They had to think outside the box. They knew they couldn't break down the front door, so they had to figure out a way to get invited inside.
And that brings us to the climax of the story. The absolutely brilliant technical move that turned the world's most secure network into the world's most effective police surveillance tool.
So how'd they pull it off? It was a genius three-step plan. First, they got physical access to the server in that French data center. Second, they waited for EncroChat to send out a routine software update, and they secretly slipped their own malicious code, a little implant, inside of it. And third, this is the truly brilliant part. That implant would copy every single message before it got encrypted, and then it would quietly send a copy of everything to the police. They didn't break the encryption, they just sidestepped it completely. From the founders' point of view, it was a month of just pure chaos. In May, they discovered the malware and knew they'd been hacked by a government-level agency. They pushed out a frantic software patch to fix it, but the police were ready and hit them with a second, even more powerful attack. They had been completely outplayed. By June 12th, they knew the game was up. Their unbreakable fortress was now a trap, and the only move they had left was to burn the whole thing to the ground.
And the payoff for law enforcement? It was absolutely massive. We're talking over 6,500 arrests, more than $800 million in cash seized, and literal tons of drugs and guns taken off the streets. And I'm not exaggerating here. It was the single biggest intelligence win against organized crime in modern history.
But this is where the story takes another wild turn. Because taking down EncroChat didn't end the demand for secure criminal phones. It just created a huge power vacuum. The Underworld needed a new provider, and they needed one fast. And right on cue, in walks Sky ECC. The business model was practically identical. Same kind of phone, same subscription service, same criminal customers. All the now former EncroChat users flocked to it, hoping lightning wouldn't strike twice. But as you can see from that last row, they were very, very wrong.
And get this, the problem didn't just come back, it actually got bigger. Sky ECC swelled to 70,000 users, way more than EncroChat ever had. The demand for these kinds of services, it seems, is just endless.
And sure enough, less than a year after EncroChat went dark, it all happened again. In March 2021, international police announced they had cracked Sky ECC too. They basically took the playbook they learned from EncroChat and ran the same play again, maybe even more effectively. The whole house of cards came tumbling down. Again. So at the end of the day, this whole story of EncroChat and Sky ECC is about more than just cops and robbers. It's really a snapshot of a much bigger fight that's happening right now. This constant technological arms race between our desire for absolute privacy and the growing power of government surveillance. And after seeing how these unhackable networks fell apart, it leaves you with a really big question. In that race, who do you think is actually winning?